Hey, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast.
I'm Brenda J.
And I'm Karen Wonder.
And we are HangingOnToHope.org.
This podcast is intended as educational and is not psychological or medical advice. Always consult a professional when needed, and we disclaim any liability in connection with the instruction, information, or advice given. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast. This is Karen W.
And this is Brenda J.
And today we're just going to have a discussion about life and what's going on and kind of do an update.
Yeah, we are going to do that. So I'm going to talk about something. I one morning I woke up and this article came on my phone and I just couldn't believe, because we've done the podcast on body image and talked about how social media affects how we feel about ourselves. And I mean, it truly does. And Karen and I are older. We're not young. So if I would have had to live as a kid growing up in today's generation, I would really be struggling. Yeah. And I think when we did this, the one on body image with my daughter, she had a really good body image. And then since then I've talked to her and now she's talking about surgeries or lines on her face or the lines on her forehead, which I couldn't even believe how much social media and looking at our phones and all that is affecting people that were never affected before. And so I just really pray that the women in this world and even men could just have a healthy, that God could just fill us with his Holy Spirit and just give us a healthy look at how God sees us and to see what really, really matters. And what matters is what's on the inside. And all the social media and everything that's going on, this article, there, if you Google it, you can pull up numerous articles, but it's about the preteen epidemic at Sephora. And they're saying how it needs to stop. So the question is this the end of the tween stage? So like when we were younger, we went outside, played, when we were 10 years old, it was just different. We weren't worried about if we had wrinkles and lines on our face and using beauty products like our moms did. They did that. They were adults. Well, it's saying 10 to 13-year-olds now are flocking at Sephora for makeup and skincare products and are obsessing over aging at that age.
10 years old. That's sad.
So it talks about the story that this girl was 11. She wanted nothing more than a makeup and skincare haul for Christmas. She already had an entire beauty routine to maintain her youthful appearance at 11.
Wow.
And then last year, another 14-year-old went viral for sharing her anti-aging routine on TikTok. But why is it that so many girls are putting time and energy into anti-aging rituals when most of them haven't even reached puberty yet? And then here's the answer. I think social media has a lot to do with it, as one of the mothers said regarding her daughter's obsession with beauty products. So I think Instagram, TikTok, sharing these things on social media, watching YouTubers, celebrities, and children. The news outlet even reported on another dad who said he was spending $1,000 a month on his preteen daughter's skincare habit. Sephora customers are telling their stories on social media of young girls at the retailer begging their mothers for more makeup, creams, serums, and whatever else they don't need. So there's this preteen epidemic at Sephora, and the Sephora employees are just telling story after story of how kind of crazy this is. And I'm not going to mention the products that they're going crazy over because I don't want to be promoting this stuff that is messing up and influencing these young girls' minds. So in the past, women would begin their anti-aging routine once they started the show lines. As we progressed in the 21st century, 20-somethings hopped on the trend for preventative measures. Now, thanks to social media, preteens have also joined on the very expensive skincare craze. Don't believe me? On TikTok, numerous people have complained about children as young as 10 taking over Sephora. Every time adult women enter the store, tweens are eyeing the $68 moisturizer and this other lip stains, liquid blushes. Employees have also complained about the young girls' lack of respect and rudeness in stores. So they're saying like Mean Girls. It's that movie Mean Girls just came out, the remake.
And they're acting.
Oh, yeah. You never saw Mean Girls?
No, I never saw it.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing. And now, so there's a remake of that right now, and these young girls are acting like this. And why is it happening? We likely have social media to blame. So during the 1950s and 60s, cosmetic companies cleverly aimed their marketing at teenage girls. A similar trend is unfolding today, but it has taken a different route. It's not the big corporations explicitly targeting younger girls anymore because, well, they don't need to. That's because women in their early to mid-20s are flooding TikTok with endless content centered around their favorite makeup items, anti-aging products, routines, and skincare secrets. Naturally, prepubescent girls, they are going to want what they have. So now we have preteens putting on SPF during the day and retinols at night. Social media has taught girls to fear aging while simultaneously influencing them to partake in behaviors for older women. They're learning to put on makeup at a very young age and wearing trendy outfits pushed by influencers partnered with clothing brands. They're facing constant pressure from the media and their peers, sadly, to adhere to adult-like beauty standards. Traditionally, tweens were doing the typical girl stuff, like playing with their friends, video games, toys, and whatever else. Admittedly, makeup was never out of the picture for most preteens, but a lot of them weren't using high-end brands. Makeup was for play and creativity. It wasn't used as a way to cover up their insecurities or succumb to peer pressure. What I'm saying is, rather than teens actually focusing on embracing the carefree aspects of childhood, like not having to worry about aging, preteens are adopting adult mindsets and practices at an increasingly younger age. So we're witnessing the death of the tween age. And I don't want to think about what the consequences are going to be.
So who's the author of that article?
It was an article in Evie magazine. Oh, by Nicole Dominique, it says. Sure. And that was, written January 2nd, 2024. So and you could pull it up. There's just article after article of how they're throwing tantrums and they're just destroying the stores and just...
But I think so much of it's because so many people have phones now. Kids that age have phones and everything's on their phone. They're looking at all that stuff on their phones with TikTok. And I know because I'm on TikTok sometimes too, but I can't stand those. I don't know. When you're going through something when somebody's dying of cancer, you're just like, I don't freaking care.
Yeah.
And it just cuts to the chase of like, I want cat videos or something that's going to make me laugh, or maybe something educational, but I don't care about all that other stuff. It's just a bunch of crap to me.
Well, and I just got to I got to the point where, you're on Facebook and Instagram and it knows the things that you want to buy. So it pops up what you're interested in. And then half the time it doesn't work and that you're just spending money on it. And it's kind of like, you want to take care. I want to take care of myself and I want to look good. But at the same time, it shouldn't be an obsession. It shouldn't be all that matters. The quality of a person. Yeah. If you're kind, if you love other people, if you love God, just how you treat others. Yeah,
that's so much more important than your skin.
How your heart is. Yeah, it just, none of it makes sense to me. And because we didn't grow up with social media. Like, we didn't even have phones until I think after I got married. So I was probably like 20.
Yeah, I didn't either.
24, 25, when after my first kid, then I finally had a cell phone. And now it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot my phone. What am I going to do? Like, and even...
I know, we're so dependent on our phones now.
Yeah.
And especially, I know my kids, they grew up with their phones. So to them, it's such a big part of their life. But I think it definitely has affected their mental health because they're seeing things that no one needs to see, like too much information.
Well, yeah. And it's very disturbing to me because I'll just be reading a news article and an image will say, look at this woman she's like half naked. It's disgusting. And it'll say, watch this video of this local person wants you to watch her. Like, they obviously doesn't know I'm a woman. And I don't click on it, but I figure if I'm getting that kind of stuff, kids are probably getting that kind of stuff on their phones. Boys are getting that stuff on their phones. And so I think really women need to think about what they're doing and who they're affecting. Yeah. Because they're not just men seeing these ads that they're paying for. And I forget what that's called, that company in London where you can have your own page and men pay you for it. I cannot remember what that's called. And women have these accounts, but that's different. But when you're on your phone and you're a kid and, your kid's exposed to porn because something popped up on their phone, that woman that did that needs to really think about that. Yeah. They really do need to think about who's looking at that. For me, I can't imagine doing that in the first place, but, think of the consequences to the things that you do.
Yeah, but I've been reading articles too. They say like there's a lot, it's very common now, like teachers on the side, they have these accounts that they're making money off of their beauty or whatever. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what it's called either, but they have the different pages where men can view them. Yeah. But it's almost like common practice now, like, oh yeah, this is just something I have to do on the side to make a living. And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but to have something randomly come up on your phone when I'm not somebody that looks at things like that is extremely disturbing to me because I feel disgusted. Like, how did this come on my phone? So I don't know. The world we live in it's a mess.
It is.
It's a mess.
It's very
Bob Hamp's been putting out some really good articles. So Karen is going to go ahead and read one of them.
Yeah, I posted something to my Facebook page where he talked about spiritual abuse, but this is something from today, and it's kind of a long article, but I'll try to summarize it. But he talks about, this is from Bob Hamp's page. I post often about the pitfalls and consequences of unhealthy systems, and especially religious systems. As a result, people ask about solutions. Solutions exist, yet clearly so do barriers to these solutions. And he's talking about back in Israel's day in 1 Samuel, they wanted a king. And so he talks about in 1 Samuel 8, is the story of Israel asking for a king. But how much do we know about the warning that God gave the people if he appointed a king over them? And it's verses 10 through 18. And he says it's a chilling warning. It took one verse for the people to ask, and it took 8 verses for God to let them know this. If you have a king, he will take from you everything that matters to you and everything you value. It took one more verse for the people to say, that's okay, give it to us anyway. So powerful is the drive to avoid free thinking and the weight of responsibility that comes with it. The crowd will choose a king, knowing they will one day beg for relief from the king they have chosen. When a man or woman is given the kind of unlimited power that we afford many Christian leaders, we have made them a king. Read the warning. The kind of leadership that leads people to think for themselves does not build large, homogeneous followings. Rather, it unleashes each person into their unique identity and therefore their unique destiny. That kind of people spreads across the world within the power to set others free. The paradigm that lets us create large gatherings under the charismatic voice of an increasingly powerful leader takes advantage of the lesser side of human nature for both king and subject. The paradigm that gathers 12 people and as quickly as possible sends them out. And we were talking about that when Jesus, drew the 12 disciples to them. He sent them out, empowers them to learn to function from the identity God created self rather than compliance. Freedom is free. It is not easy. I thought that was a good article because, yeah.
Well, to sum that up, the way I took that was, Jesus, he discipled the 12 and then he sent each one of them out right away. They started going out and doing the things of the kingdom right away. Yeah. They didn't sit around and Jesus didn't sit around and allow this huge mob of people to look at him like a superstar.
Yeah.
He actually, finished feeding the 5,000 and took off and went to be with God on his own.
Right.
Like he doesn't want us to be worshiping these mega pastors.
Right. Jesus wasn't interested in being a celebrity.
Right.
Like so many pastors, of mega churches end up being, whether they want to be or not, they end up being celebrities because they have such a large group of people that look to them.
Right. Instead of God.
Instead of God. Yeah.
Yeah. And those pastors should be teaching, discipling and sending them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not really happening because unfortunately we've talked about that on our podcast too. Unfortunately, a lot of pastors, and I'm not saying all pastors are that way, but some like that attention, so they kind of want to stay in that moment instead of like really learning to disciple others so that they can learn. They don't need, a person. They can learn things from Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. So
it's a crazy world right now. I can't even watch the news because it's like I have enough bad news in my own sphere. I kind of try to stay somewhat up to date, but it's like so heavy. I think everyone's feeling it right now. I think that's part of why The Chosen's gotten so popular because people need hope.
Yeah.
They need to, there's got to be something more in this world because our world is in chaos with everything going on in Israel and Ukraine and everything. It's just a world where everything feels crazy and the world feels crazy and just the healthcare system on its own feels crazy. Even just going through this journey with my dad, you're like, gosh, you have to be such an advocate for yourself. It's not like, I don't know if it ever was all that great, but it just seems like you really have to be an advocate and understand what's going on and fight for your rights. And because it seems like the world is just operated by so much greed.
Yeah.
Everything is greed. We had our state of the airline. I work for an airline. Today I was listening to it and they always have people that come up and the flight attendants have been asking for more money for years now. They're in this contract. And I was so struck when I was watching that because the CEO does a really good job of trying to act like, hey, he came up to them. He's like, I'm not afraid of you. He came close to them, but I could tell there was a disconnect.
Yeah.
He makes so much more money than they do. And that's what I just wanted to scream is you have no idea. And that's what this one gal read. I mean, she's been an employee for 3 years and she was saying, I can't make it. I can't pay my rent. I can't buy groceries on what my salary is. And she was reading it, almost in tears. And they had a big group of people around them trying to and I've done that job myself, but I did it years ago before I had kids back in the day. And I would not want to do that job now because I'm, reading something every day about some flight attendant getting attacked by a passenger. Yeah. It's like, it's not worth it. But it just made me so sad. After I watched that, I was just like, they don't even get it. He thought he was trying to be so like, I hear your pain and I see you and we're going to work on getting an agreement. But I can tell like, no, you're not. Not the kind of agreement that they want.
Right.
He says he's hearing them, but he wasn't really hearing them because he's making so much money, so much more money than they are. He doesn't live in their world.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to live paycheck to paycheck and forced to figure out a way to pay his rent and get groceries. And I just thought, how sad. Like, and they were trying to say that we want a leader. We don't want you to be a follower. We want you to be a leader. They're trying to say, step up. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I thought that's just such a state of our world right now. It feels so disconnected.
Yeah, I truly believe the only hope we have right now in this world is if we put our hope in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I really do. I try to spend as much time as I can with the Lord each day, and I still struggle mentally, physically, emotionally, and I do that. Can you imagine if you don't do that at all?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of the issues are coming in, and you can see people having mental breakdowns on their face when you see them.
Just losing it, yeah.
You do. So I'm going to try to continue doing that so that I can survive this time. But I'll just be praying for everyone else and repenting too. Yeah. Repenting for America and what's going on and with this upcoming election and them just letting people in across the border. Yeah. I mean, they shut down the Arizona border a while ago, but no one knows what's going to happen. They say the economy's good. Then next minute you hear there's a recession. And then so it's kind of just like, I'm going to put my trust in you, Jesus. I'm going to put my trust in God because he is my ultimate provider. And that's all I can do because without that, there's no hope.
Yeah, that's all any of us can do.
There is no hope.
Yeah, that's definitely my focus right now too. After going through, just when you're going through any kind of thing like that, when you're with someone that's looking at the end of their life, to me, it's like what matters most. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, it matters most like what happens after you die. I'm a big believer that you do live on. And, I'm reading a book right now by Howard Storm, who was in that movie we saw. What's it called?
We saw that movie After Death.
After Death.
And we were both profoundly impacted and we didn't see it together. Yeah. We saw it at separate times.
He goes in a lot more detail in this book, but I've had to stop myself because I'm at the point where he talks about how God, and the angels or whatever, they're just like, there were times when they were disappointed at things that he did. And I just kept thinking about if I were to get a review of my life, I'm sure, there's things that you regret, but it's also just focusing on what matters most and moving forward because we can't change mistakes we made in the past. Right. But moving forward, I just want to make every moment count. I mean, that's part of my password at work is like every second counts. Right. It's just like, it really does, especially with looking at what happened with my dad. I mean, just in a second, his life changed. Yep. Completely different. He couldn't do the things that he loved anymore, just like that. Yeah. His life changed. And I'm like, that can happen to any of us. Yeah. And it made me realize, like, how do I want to live my life where I'm living to the fullest of my potential and not having any regrets, just loving and being there for people and caring. And
that's what happened to me after I got divorced. That hit me right then. Like, I'm going to live my life. Yeah. Like it hit you just recently, but it hit me way before that. And so people would think I'm nuts. Like, what is the rush for? Like, well, you don't know what your last day is. There's no rush, but I want to live what I want to live. And so it was funny though, because my bucket list, one of them was going to Europe. And now that I've gone, I feel like I could go at any time.
It's like, okay, I went.
Like, I'm like, okay, that was what I really want to do. Now people are like, where's your next trip? And I'm like, I don't even care.
Well, that was such a great trip. I still look at we took so many pictures, but when I go through them, I'm like, I'll just stop and look at them all because it's almost like it was surreal.
It was. Every moment of it was exciting and amazing.
It went so well.
Yeah. I don't think it could have gone better. And so now when people are like, well, what's your name? I'm like, I'm good. I'm good now. I could just die. That was my thing. And it must have really been my bucket list thing because I'm content now. I'm like, I'm good. I'm good now. I can just go live in a small town and waitress at a restaurant or something. I don't even care anymore. I'm like,
I know.
I'm good.
It just puts everything in perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
It's like what's really important is to love. I mean, that's what the whole message of Howard
Yes.
Storm's book and what he felt like God was saying to him is it's not time for you to go now. He had this, he almost died when he was in Paris, talking about being in Paris. I mean, he had this thing that happened to him, but his whole perspective was like what he came away from was that God just wants us to love,
right?
And I think that's the overwhelming message of the.
And
of
I
the
remember
movie
in the movie, I thought he said that God told him that he needs to love the person in front of him, which I meant his wife, I guess, and that God said that you can change the world just by loving one person.
Yeah, my boyfriend broke down at that point in the movie. I mean, he started crying.
Yeah.
She's like, that's what it's all about love,
She just said her boyfriend again. I'm like, sorry. I got to cut that out. I can't laugh at that again. But it is. It's important that we love. And the good thing about watching that movie, and I read a lot of near-death experience books, is every single person that's had a near-death experience comes back with that same, they felt the love, they felt this love, they felt the love of God, and the message was that they just needed to love others when they came back.
Yeah. Well, his story too is so interesting because he was an atheist.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not, but he remembered he was taught about Jesus as a, young child.
Right.
So and he actually was being tormented. Like his first experience was like these beings,
right.
which,
it was like hell almost.
Yeah, it was almost, he was being tormented. They were like picking on him and like eating on him. I mean, it was like a tormented experience, but then he called out to Jesus because he's like, I remember as a child being, praying to Jesus. And it was like at that moment he called on Jesus and he just kind of went up. And I mean, he ended up after that going into seminary and he's a pastor now. So, I mean, it completely changed his life and he lost his wife and he lost his kids because people that have these near-death experiences, they're like, people can't handle it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't want to know about this reality. I don't know what they might be thinking, but it's like too much for them.
Yeah.
Which is sad. But it's also, to me, hearing his message is just like, why I feel like God gives us these little glimpses of like, this is part of what the world, this is what I'm trying to teach you and show you. And he lets people have these little experiences. But I feel like so many people are oblivious to wanting to know that message.
Yeah, that movie was, I liked it because it was more of the scientific view. They interviewed doctors and scientists.
Yeah.
And I've read other books that weren't based off of that. So anybody could watch that and have hope. And that was funny because I did talk to my son about that movie too, that, and that we are just supposed to love.
Yeah.
And I think everybody tries to complicate it too much.
Yeah.
And every time I see people being angry or the way the world is right now, I'll talk to them and I'll be like, you need to focus on loving. It says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that.
Yeah, we just get so distracted with everything else, our social media and everything else that's going on that's trying to distract us from what the most important thing is, which is loving.
Yeah, love.
But it's so true.
Yeah, we're called to love. And so we just pray for our listeners now that we could all just remember to just love one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is healing. I want to encourage people. I never thought I'd be in a good relationship. I just want to encourage people to get the healing that's needed.
Yeah.
Like God does not leave you there. He always redeems you. Whatever you're going through, you could be in the most difficult place right now and think there's no way out, but God will always provide a way out. I've been communicating with a gal that's in an emotionally abusive marriage, and my God can redeem you from that. He doesn't want you in this marriage where you feel like you're crazy all the time.
Yeah.
God redeemed me in a way I could never have imagined. And God's always close to the brokenhearted. He sees your pain and you're not alone. And that's what I want to give people, that encouragement of just knowing God sees your pain and he's going to be there for you.
Yeah, definitely.
But I do want to tell our listeners, too, that we really appreciate our listeners and we enjoy getting feedback. And we just thank you for continuing to listen. And we want to continue to offer podcasts that bring hope and healing. We're hoping to have some on gaslighting. I've been wanting to do one on lamenting for a while because Psalms are so full of lamenting, and which to me, right after I got out of my marriage, that's all I could read as the Psalms. So we're going to do a podcast on that. And we just want to continue to offer podcasts that help people.
Yeah, and thank you for your grace for this month. It was hard for Karen. She was gone, and it was kind of an interim time too.
Yeah,
with the podcast, and hopefully we'll be back putting out some great content.
Yeah, I'm excited about different guests that we have coming up.
All right, we love all you guys, and we're out.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Yes.
We appreciate your support.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Hanging On to Hope. Check out our website, hangingontohope.org. There are resources on there, and if you would like to donate or volunteer, you can do that through our website. We are a brand new nonprofit, so we appreciate any and all support. And we thank you for listening, and until next time, keep hanging on to hope. We are evidence that there is hope and healing for you, and our passion is to help you find it too. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, everyone.